Am I the a-hole for not inviting my brother to my wedding and telling my parents and sister that if they try to bring him, they will all be asked to leave? I have an older sister and a younger brother. Growing up, I was close to both my sister and brother. Then around high school, my brother started flirting with the girls I liked, even girls I was dating. Ended up in a relationship with one of my exes right after we broke up. And then he ended up sleeping with my ex-fiancée while we were together and 3 months away from our wedding. After that, I cut him off. I said we were done. He was dead to me and I no longer had a brother and never would again. It's been 7 years and I'm engaged again. My wedding is actually this January. It's small, intimate, with our closest friends and family. But my parents and sister are upset that my brother didn't get an invite. But I told them he was not welcome. They said he's still my brother, and I said no. He stopped being my brother a long time ago. He reached out via social media and asked if we could let the past be the past and move on. That he had always regretted what he did. He knows he treated me horribly, but he has changed so much throughout his 20s and want to make amends. I blocked him and didn't reply. Then my sister said she would just bring him as her +1 if I won't be the bigger man. So I told her and my parents, they were there during this, that if any of them bring him with them, I will make sure they all leave and they will not be welcomed back to the wedding, and that I'm serious about this. They are saying I'm an a-hole, and that if I'm happy, I should be open to reconciling. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Yes, people grow and change, but the harm is done. You can't do it. Plus, it's your day. Do what makes you happy. I will say consider reconciliation in the future when you're not pressured into it. You might be able to foster a level of civility. He should cut them all out of his life. The family's on good terms with a crappy person, which makes them crappy. Not they all at all, but I think it's extreme to cut them all off for actions that weren't theirs. Parents won't just never talk to Opie's brother. He's their son, albeit an a-hole one. It's not Opie's place to dictate the parents-brother relationship. In the same way, it's not the family's place to dictate Opie's, lack of, relationship with a brother. Opie did all the right things and shouldn't be pressured into reconciliation. If they choose to ignore his reasonable boundaries, then maybe it is time to consider cutting them all off his life. Not stay home. You're not obligated to reconcile within someone else's time frame. The fact that your sister believes he would choose to come if she asked him as her +1 would seem to indicate he might not have changed all that much. Also, that's some nerve on her part. The wedding isn't about your parents, your sister, or your brother. It's about you and your fiancé. This. He is forcing himself back into Opie's life as if he is entitled to be there. His behavior gives me the feeling as if he thinks more about how he will look like towards others if he isn't invited to his brother's wedding. Not day home. Info. Did he actually say, "I'm sorry" to you? Did he describe how he would treat you differently if you let him back into your life? He did say he was sorry, and I'm not sure if he said what he would do differently. I didn't really read the whole thing. It was long AF, and I was not interested. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he downgraded? My 28 female brother Mike, 33 male, was married to Lisa, 31 female for 4 years, until last year when he was caught cheating with Penny, 29 female. My ex-sister-in-law was reserved, sweet, and was straight edge, no alcohol/drugs. Mike loves to party and went to court-ordered rehab before he was even 21. When Mike met Lisa, he sobered up, got an apprenticeship, and really turned his life around. He also threw that all away on Penny. Penny knew he was married. She got him drunk, and that is how the affair started. Penny is loud, disgusting, obnoxious, and encourages my brother to drink. And he thinks she's just so fun and the life of the party. We were at a family party this past weekend, and Mike and Penny were there. Some cousins we hadn't seen in years were there too and were introduced to Penny. And Mike introduced her as his upgrade. Cue major side eye for me. My brother noticed and pulled me aside later. He asked then why the attitude. That Penny was clearly an upgrade. I asked him to explain that comment. And he said that she's blonde, curvy, and fun, whereas Lisa looked like a librarian with no front. I decided to clear things up for him. Penny is obnoxious, rude, slovenly. Her hair is poorly bleached, and she smells like fungus. No one looks at her like a prize to be won. No one is jealous of him, but she thinks they are. His best friend won't even talk to him anymore because Penny made a dead baby joke to his wife after a miscarriage. I let him know that he actually chose alcohol over his ex. and Penny just encouraged him to do it because she had a crush on him for years. He called me a witch, and I told him same scenes. Pretty sure I am the a-hole on this one, to be honest. Not the a-hole. Your brother picked someone who makes dead baby jokes to his best friend after a trauma, costing him the friendship. That's not an upgrade. While I do agree with everything you say, I don't know. For some reason, something about calling a human an upgrade versus downgrade just doesn't sit well with me. It almost feels like you value them less as a person, which I think is incorrect. Everyone sucks here in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Sounds like Penny's a downgrade, but it's the grade that Mike deserves. In business, they call it right-sizing. You're the a-hole for attacking her. Your brother is the one who cheated. His choice, his responsibility, not hers. Yeah, I agree. The looks were a low blow. Sleeping with a married man knowingly makes her a home wrecker. She didn't say the vows, but she helped into cheating. It takes two to tango, and no cheater waltz by themselves. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my ex-husband's pregnant wife cry? So, my both 29 ex cheated on me with Rose, 30. She knew he had a wife and 3 kids because she was both my maid of honor and cousin. It's no shock that she doesn't like the fact she has to share my ex's attention with his 3 kids, 9 female, 4 male, and 3 male, and limits how much time we speak, aka co-parenting. So when she announced her pregnancy a few months ago, it was honestly the countdown before my kids were pushed aside. Like, obviously she isn't all to blame as their father should put them first. Since she's pissed on that stick, there's been multiple weeks where she was too ill to have the children stay, or they had to come home early. Then she's miraculously is well enough to go out to dinner or see a movie. They come to me a few weeks ago and suggested that basically 2 weeks before her due date and until the baby is 2 weeks old, that my ex wouldn't take them but FaceTime and visit every day, minus when she goes into labor plus a few days after, which was fair, and I agreed. Till tonight. I got a phone call from my crying 9-year-old. Apparently my cousin brought herself McDonald's back for dinner, and when my 3-year-old asked for a chicken nuggets, she screamed at him, calling him a fat pig, then went on a rant on how much she hated having them over because they make her sick. By the time I got there, their POS father was waiting outside with my very upset kids. I asked my sister to get them into the car and pull down a little bit so they wouldn't hear anything. Before I could talk, he blamed it on her hormones and tried to laugh it off. But I told him he was a crappy father and a coward. Then cousin waddled up to the door and suggested that the kids don't come back till the baby's at least 5 months old. She's 6 months pregnant, by the way. And no FaceTime or visits when she turns 8 months until the baby is 3 months old, so they have a chance to bond. I stared at her till she tried to blame it on her bleeding and breastfeeding. Had enough. So I said, they're kids, not sharks. So the bleeding BS wouldn't work, wicked stepmom. We have been trying to push my kids out since day one. But guess what? You can have him completely like a man that throws away his kids for some no-good woman. And I don't want my boys to think that's how to act. And I don't want you around my daughter for the same reason I pity your kid. She started crying and my ex called me cold-hearted witch. I said thanks, then walked away. After all the phone calls and calming down, I think I went into a-hole mode. Now for the top comments before the little update. I'm going to say not the a-hole. She clearly wants to start over with your husband and exclude the kids. Shame on your husband for not sticking up for his own kids. Yeah, that's the worst part. He should have stuck up for his kids long ago. I think it's way more at fault than the current wife. Truthfully, yes, you're right. I know I hate her, but he has full blame because if I was dating a guy and he didn't treat my kids like his own, we wouldn't be together. Not stay home, Mama Bear. I think you should give your ex's wife what she wants and try to get full custody of the kids. Oh, I am. Don't worry about that. No dad is better than a crappy one. Not stay home. I feel so bad for your kids. Your ex is the a-hole for letting someone kick his kids out of his life. They won't forget how horrible him and his wife have treated them. It may be best for you to keep them away. My daughter cried herself to sleep asking why her father didn't want her. I feel horrible because this has caused drama with my ex-in-laws too. So it's obviously gotta hurt her more. Edit. To the people sending me messages offering me money to help pay for a lawyer. Even though you're amazing people with good hearts, it's not a money issue. I've not gone full custody yet because, and this is the most heartbreaking reason, my kids love their father so much. My ex is my 9-year-old daughter's world. Her face lights up when he drops by, and she's smiling the whole day. but unfortunately she cries herself to sleep when they cut the visit short. So for months, I fought with myself about going full custody. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving early for my husband's party? I, 28 male, and my husband, 30 male, are newlyweds. We got married this August and had a very small wedding. We just bought a wonderful townhouse that is great for us and our 2 dogs. We both work full-time and split the bills. All of the families get along very well, and we couldn't be happier. The only issue that we have is that his friend group likes to make jokes and pull pranks on people. They post all of their videos on social media and will pull pranks on people that aren't expecting them. I have voiced my concern with my husband, and he will tell them to tone it down. But when my husband hangs with them, his personality will change. My sister, 25 female, had a birthday party this past June, and they decided to squirt invisible ink all over her dress. She was devastated, and I spent the rest of the night fighting with my husband. His reaction is always the same. It's just me having fun with the boys. We celebrated his birthday on Monday and had his party at his parents' house. I went over earlier to help set up and baked my husband's favorite dessert, Dutch apple pie. I put some whipped cream on the pie and placed it in the fridge. The party seemed to be going great until I saw one of his friends carrying the pie I made and slams it into my husband's face, wishing him a happy birthday. Husband was laughing and went to clean himself off. I was shocked and speechless. I said goodbye to his family and left. When husband came home, he was pissed that I left and told me to take a joke. I have been giving him the cold shoulder since. Am I the a-hole for leaving early for my husband's birthday party? Not the a-hole. A reminder that if everyone isn't laughing, it's not a joke. It's cruelty. Plain and simple. Your husband and his friends need to grow up. Nobody else was laughing except him and his friends. They destroyed your work. If you weren't laughing, then it wasn't a joke. Why is he okay with your work and effort for his birthday being destroyed as a joke? Not the a-hole. His friends clearly don't care how their actions affect others. Your husband is completely disregarding your feelings, and wasting the dessert you made especially for him was disrespectful. If he wants to interact with his buddies like this, he needs to do so away from your family and any other innocent bystanders. While his friends may consent to pranking each other, the other victims clearly did not. Not the a-hole. You spent time and effort baking his favorite dessert. What happens if other people wanted some and it's not available because his friend did that? It's one thing to bring a separate pie to do that with, but they destroyed something you did for him. Can't have fun with the boys without being a nuisance to people around you, which sounds like they are. Your sister definitely didn't ask to be part of their pranks. She did not want to be part of any of the pranks. She had no idea it was invisible ink until they told her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding with my husband after he got kicked out of it? My female 30, sister's female 27 wedding was last week. She and her husband chose formal attire as the dress code for their wedding. It was mentioned beforehand to give guests the heads up. But when my husband, male 33, found out, he didn't like it. He didn't like it at all, saying he didn't think it was fair to dictate what guests wear in the first place, and that this entire rule was stupid and unnecessary. Then complained in person to my sister and her now husband. He said he wanted to wear something casual, which is what he usually wear, and asked if they could turn a blind eye and just let him attend wearing casual since his family. My brother-in-law said rules are for all with no exceptions. My husband repeatedly expressed how uncomfortable he was wearing a suit, and that all of his old suits are just lame and made him look older. My brother-in-law stated this was the official dress code and asked my husband to either follow it or not go. My husband came home after that, saying my brother-in-law was power-tripping and acting like a typical spoiled white kid who wants everything his way and control others as they were puppets. I said that it's his wedding, so of course he gets the final say, and suggested that he wear his newest suit and buy a tie. At the day of the wedding, I went early to help my sister since I had a part in it, and then suddenly we heard noise coming from the entrance. It was my husband, wearing blue jeans and a red Garrett t-shirt, arguing with my brother-in-law and the staff, insisting on getting inside. I rushed to get involved, and my brother-in-law repeatedly asked my husband to go put on a suit or not come back. My husband refused, and they exchanged few choice words and Mom got involved, but my brother-in-law told him to leave. My husband resisted, then told me to grab my stuff so we could leave together. But I said no. He looked stunned, and I said I didn't do anything. Besides, I wanted to be with my sister and had work to do. He got upset and left. He blew up at me after I got home, saying I had no problem standing there watching my sister and her husband humiliate and kick him out, then refusing to take a stand and leave with him. I told him this was the outcome of his stubbornness, and he replied saying, since when wanting to have a freedom to wear whatever I want meant stubbornness. He said I should have supported him and went home with him, and not let my family mistreat him like that. Not day home. Your husband had plenty of notice to find something appropriate to wear, was repeatedly told the dress code, and he had it turned up in jeans and a t-shirt. He didn't even attempt to dress nice casual in slacks and a button-up. He's definitely the a-hole in this situation. You support your spouse when they are in the right, not when they are behaving like toddlers that don't want to wear their socks. The husband is an extra a-hole for his typical white spoiled kid comment, just because he didn't get what he wanted. Dress codes are normal for wedding, work, but he wants to be the big exception. In Germany, we call it Extrawurst. Whining about freedom and acting like a dress code is oppression? Sounds like a typical white spoiled kid to me. Not day home. You didn't humiliate him. He humiliated himself. He was repeatedly told the rules, and if he couldn't follow them, he shouldn't show up. Hopefully when he comes down, he can be the better person and apologize. If he can't, good luck navigating that. But do not waste a minute thinking you and your family are to blame over his hurt feelings or embarrassment. Not stay home. Your husband sounds like an entitled prick. No idea why I married him. Totally agree. His freedom is more important than anyone else's wishes. Like he is the most important person anywhere. That makes him a baby and a huge a-hole and certainly not ready for marriage. Not stay all OP, but how do you stand him?
Update. Am I the a-hole for shutting down my wife's party favor idea? Original post. For some context, the story starts last year at our 7-year-old son's birthday party. I, 32 male, and my wife, 32 female, held the party at our home. We decided to leave the bulk of the planning to my wife, as she loves this kind of thing and wanted to take the reins. I had no reason to doubt any of her plans, as she did a great job with our past parties. I handled invites, food orders, and anything else she needed me to do. To her credit, she did a great job with the party itself. Everything ran smoothly and the kids had a great time. Until she brought out the party favors that she had kept a surprise from me. They came out when our friend had to leave with her daughter, right after the cake. Before she could, my wife went into the back room and came out with a bag, the biggest grin on her face. What was inside the bag, you ask? A small tetra fish from the pet store, to be given as a party favor. My friend was flabbergasted. Her daughter's face beamed with excitement at the sight of her new pet. "Mommy, I've always wanted a fish." My friend was at a loss for words, only glaring at me. She declined the fish, walking out of the party while her daughter clung to her, throwing a tantrum about turning down her new pet. Obviously, the chaos caused a scene, as all the children now knew about the fish. Every single parent in the room was pissed, glaring, muttering, the whole works. What are we going to tell our kids? Great, now I have to get a fish tank. Most parents obliged and reluctantly accepted the fish. The whole time, my wife was elated at the sight of the happy children, oblivious to how their parents reacted. We ended up having to take a few fish home that had been turned down, meaning we also had to buy a tank. My wife couldn't understand why anyone would pass up a wonderful 50-cent fish she grabbed that morning from PetSmart. Fast forward to now, 1 year later. It's a month away from my son's 8th birthday party, and my wife broached the topic of party favors. She exclaimed that we should hand out fish again. The kids loved it. It was a hit last year. I do not want to go through this again. Several of my friends who were at the party complained about having to take care of these fish, being put in a situation where they felt pressured to accept the gift to avoid upsetting their child. They had never received such a ridiculous party favor, and they wouldn't be attending if this was the case again. Not to mention, this feels horribly abusive to the fish who now have owners who don't want them. My wife brushed all of this off, saying that the parents were being selfish for not thinking about what makes the kids happy. She apparently didn't notice anyone upset at the party, only focusing on how the kids felt. She's calling me controlling, saying she doesn't even want to plan the party if she can't have this her way. All of her small group church friends agree with her. I don't want to upset my friends by putting them in an unfair situation, but I don't want to upset my wife because she truly does enjoy putting these events together. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my wife not to buy a party favor fish? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. She gave the parents an obligation, not a treat for the children. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of parents RSVP'd no this year. And if she does fish again, no one will come to her son's parties again after this. She needs to think about her son and his future. She needs to think about the fish. She needs to think about the other parents and her spouse, OP, instead of getting her jollies off kids being excited, while she makes everyone else miserable. You're absolutely right. It's so unfair for our son if his friends don't attend because of her actions. Definitely not the a-hole. Borrow someone's dog for a day and say you got it as a birthday present and see how she reacts. Unless she would love that, then don't. Maybe a snake or something. I like the way you're thinking. The issue is, she argues that she would love to receive pets as a gift since she loves animals. Now for the first update. Hey Reddit, it's been nearly a month since I posted about the party favors situation between my wife and I. My son had his birthday yesterday. I wanted to share an update on how everything turned out. I took your guys' advice and decided to just talk to her. I used a lot of your points from the comments to reason with her, especially the ones about animal abuse. My wife just kept insisting that I was controlling, eventually just shutting down and walking away, giving me the silent treatment. For those of you asking if this has happened before, yes. Not the party situation exactly, but the I'm going to make a horrible, selfish decision, and if you push back your controlling behavior. She has backed out of multiple parties and events last minute because she didn't feel like going, and accused me of abandoning her when I told her I still wanted to go. Insisted I stop playing guitar because she finds it annoying. Attended a wedding in a swimsuit because she was told there was a pool. Proceeded to spend the whole reception at the pool because they're your friends. I don't really care about celebrating them. Pushed back on my insistence to find a new school for our son, even though he was being bullied, because she didn't feel like causing a scene. Our son is in a new school now and he's much happier. I was fed up and refused to give in. I can't let my son go through this, and I'm not letting him lose friends because of my wife's selfishness. After literally following my wife around the house, trying to get her to talk to me, she said, "Fine, if you want it your way, you can plan this party yourself." So I did. I planned the party myself, besides the invitation, location, and date, which were already planned. My wife also demanded on picking out the cake, and that wasn't the hill I was willing to die on. It wasn't anything special, but I'm actually kinda proud. It was Jurassic Park themed. My son and I just watched all the movies together, and he adores them. He's really excited for the new one. I themed each table around different dinosaurs and put little plastic dinosaurs everywhere. As for the party favors, I gave out little bags of candy. Nothing amazing, but the kids were happy. My son was thrilled, and no fish were harmed in the making of this party. After the party, my wife kept telling me how lame everything was. That the party was boring, and the kids weren't literally jumping up and down for my candy party favors like they were for hers. Frankly, I don't care. Sure, the kids didn't have a brand new pet to bring home, but at least my party favors didn't piss off all of our friends and doom my son to a life of friendlessness. Truly, I don't know how things are going to go with my wife and I. I'm reaching my limit with her insanity. I've tried insisting on marriage counseling, but she refused unless it was done by the pastor of our church. We went, and it was a whole session of the pastor telling me I'm not a good enough man to take care of my wife, about how I'm turning away from God with my actions, and that's ruining our marriage. Needless to say, we haven't gone back, and ever since my wife loves to use this session against me in arguments. I loved her, but I'm finding it harder each day to keep being in love. I hate the idea of my son thinking this is a happy marriage and that this is a healthy way to live. Divorce scares me, but I don't know if I can live with this anymore. In the end, thank you Reddit for helping me realize that there's a lot going wrong in my marriage, far beyond a forced fish adoption crisis. I have a lot to think about, But for now, I'm going to finish watching Jurassic World with my son, who's curled up in my lap. By the way, 2 of the 3 fish we had to take home last year are still going strong. They've grown on me, but damn, I'm never getting another fish. Divorce and being happy and focusing on your son is more important than being miserable and putting your son in a home with a narcissistic wife. I can absolutely understand this. My son is my priority. Her church puts a ton of pressure to never divorce. She gets so much support through them. They view me as the bad guy. Good thing the church doesn't decide if you can or can't get divorced. You're 100% correct. Seeing a pastor is not marriage counseling. You see a properly trained psychologist or trained marriage counselor for marriage counseling. Religion should never come into marriage counseling. Given the examples you have given, your wife sounds very strange indeed. And selfish. I know we can't tell from just hearing one side, but it sounds to me like your problem is a wife who just wants everything her own way and is unable to compromise and/or negotiate. Sounds like she knew the pastor was going to side with her. Now for the second update 2 months later. Reddit, it's me, the guy with the wife who gave out fish as party favors. I'm back, and I wanted to update you guys again on how things are going, both because I've seen some eagerness for updates and because this has become a great place for me to vent. To make a long story short, we've decided to get divorced. To make a short story long, here's how we got here. I took a lot of your comments to heart about divorce and abuse. I've taken a lot of immaturity from my wife over the years, but I told myself I was in the wrong. It's easy to see from the outside that I was in a bad situation, but when you're in it, you don't realize how tough everything gets, because it becomes your normal. The fish story was just a tipping point. We went on vacation a couple of weeks ago. We traveled down to Georgia to stay with my wife's parents. To put some perspective on how I've been manipulated throughout this marriage, my in-laws agree with their daughter on just about every disagreement we've had. They once sat me down and lectured me about how I'm not making enough money to support their daughter, that she shouldn't have to work, and that I'm not a good enough man or husband because I don't take her to Disneyland every year. They're very much ingrained in the church culture, hence why my wife relies on her church and church friends for literally every bit of advice. During our trip, we all went to Cracker Barrel. The whole time, my mother-in-law and father-in-law didn't talk once to each other. They stared at their phones or at their menus, and everything just felt so cold and uncomfortable. They weren't in love, they seemed just annoyed to be around each other. And it hit me. That's my wife and me exactly. And that's how it's going to be for the rest of our lives. It's not going to get better. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried. It wasn't about the fish or her wearing a swimsuit to a wedding. I wasn't happy. I was being gaslit constantly, blamed for everything, and was stuck in an emotionally abusive marriage with a childish wife who won't take no for an answer and wants everything her way, or else I'm apparently a horrible monster. I told my wife later that evening that I wasn't happy with our marriage. Maybe I shouldn't have started this conversation on vacation, but I just needed to get everything off my chest. She admitted she wasn't happy either, but just kept telling me that we should try to make things better, that we needed to stay together for our son. When I asked her what we can do to make things better, she said, "I don't know. I don't want to talk about this right now." We left it at that and went to bed. We really weren't getting anywhere. We didn't say a word about it for the rest of the trip. We spent a lot of time apart. I took my son for walks and hikes that my wife didn't want to go on. We all watched movies together, trying to keep the happy act up to avoid ruining the trip for our son. It sucked, but I do think he had a good time regardless of everything. A couple of days after we got home from the trip, I got a call from my mom. She was in tears on the other end, asking about my marriage and what was happening between us. Apparently, my wife had called my mom to vent about how terrible of a partner I was, about how I demanded we have sex. Not true. Our intimacy in general was extremely lacking, and she shut down any attempt without negotiation or conversation. I never demanded anything. How I don't make enough to allow her to be a stay-at-home mom. She hates cooking and cleaning. I'm not even sure what she would do all day as a stay-at-home mom. And again about how controlling I was. I tried reassuring my mom as best as I could, and she said she understood that I had good reasons for how I was behaving in our marriage. But that essentially fractured my relationship between my wife and my mom and pushed the end of our marriage. I confronted my wife. It wasn't this big dramatic emotional moment. I was just done. I was apathetic, hollow. I felt nothing for her anymore. I told her, "This is not how a person treats someone they love. Do you even love me?" After a long pause, my wife said, "No, I honestly don't love you." And in truth, I didn't love her anymore. I ended it there, telling her, "Fine, we're getting a divorce." And all she said was, "That's your decision, if that's what you want." So that's where we're at. We haven't started anything legally official yet, but we're on our way. I'm sleeping on the couch. She's declared she wants to keep all the pets, except the fish, of course. My son is taking it well. We told him together and all he said was, "It's okay. I knew it was going to happen soon." He's so incredibly smart and mature at 8 years old, and I'm really grateful he understands. We reassured him that we both love him dearly, and that even though this is a big change, we're all going to do everything we can to make this easy. As for her church, I found out all along she was sleeping with a pastor. Nah, I'm just kidding. For some backstory on our church experience, I used to be pretty religious and attended Church A with my wife. I started questioning my faith and told her how I was feeling. She got so angry, angrier than I've ever seen her. She tried to hit me, so I blocked her arm. My wife then screamed at me for putting my hands on her and tried to leave with our son. He was 4 at the time. I refused to let him go with her, and she stormed off on her own. My wife told all of our church friends how much of a monster I was for what I did, to the point where they started encouraging her to call the police on me. She never did. She just told me that's what they advised her to do. After that, I refused to go to that church and later joined Church B, which my wife joined too. She wasn't motivated to go to Church A without me. We left Church B for a multitude of reasons: terrible leadership, money laundering, poor treatment of our son, and my wife insisted we go back to Church A. I tried, but everyone there treated me so coldly. Not once after the incident did any one of my friends from Church A ask how I was doing, or if what they were told was true. I stopped going to church altogether, and she kept going. Now, they've all but excommunicated me, and I never plan to speak to any one of them again. I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm just grateful to be taking the steps I need to be happy and free from this marriage. Thank you, Reddit. In a way, I always knew something had to change, but seeing your replies helped validate everything I was feeling and made me feel a bit less crazy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay a bigger portion of the rent unless my boyfriend does more household chores? I, 31 female, have been with my boyfriend, 36, for almost 4 years, and we've been living together for about 3 years. We met at work, and at the time, both our jobs were not too stressful, and our wages were similar. My boyfriend is still at that company. I changed my job a year ago, and I now earn about 20% more than him. However, my new job comes with a lot of stress, responsibilities, and overtime. We have been fighting about me working too much or prioritizing my work, and my boyfriend feels less of a man because I make more money now. He recently said it was unfair that I'm making that much more and we still split rent 50-50. I get that, and I propose to do 60-40 in the future. However, only if he does more of our household chores in return. I might add, I do the majority of our cleaning. I cook, I do laundry most of the time, and I also think that's not fair because we're both working. On top of that, my job is really intense, and my boyfriend often only works around 4 to 5 hours a day, leaving him plenty of free time. When I suggested that he should contribute more to our household so that I contribute more financially, he got really mad. He said it's not fair. But when he got job offers with a better salary, he refused because he would rather earn less and have more free time than hustle the way I do. Am I the a-hole in this? And should I just pay more without expecting anything in return? My boyfriend feels less of a man because I make more money now. Buy him a new car, a Mitsubishi GTFO. Seriously though, you should consider ending this relationship lest he find other, more odious ways of feeling more manly. Oh, and if the expenses share was based on pay alone, it would be a 6-to-5 ratio, not 60-40. That may not seem like much of a difference, but the latter has you paying 1.5 times as much when you only get 1.2 times the wage. And if you're doing most of the housework as well, you're getting host like the audience at a Rammstein concert. This is very well said. OP's boyfriend is a leech. He does not care about making money because you're doing that, and he's totally okay with it. And he's not okay with it all at the same time. He needs to make up his mind. Either take a job that would actually require him to work more hours just like you did, or be okay with picking up the slack around the apartment. I don't think that doing neither is okay, and I'm a guy. Time to go. He's not interested in being fair and resents your success. Only downhill from here. My ex was like that. 100%. If he resents your success and refuses to step up at home, what's left? It's not about money. It's about respect and effort. If one partner is constantly giving more in every area, it becomes emotional labor too. Time to reevaluate.